Something. Hello and welcome. This is the very first event of of actually 2024's Environmental Action Civic Week. It's our second Environmental Action Civics Week. As you guys, if you're here, probably know, Environmental Action Civics Week is a celebration and an elevation of the youth adult partnerships that create environmental change when young people are engaged in civic action. We have a great panel for you today. I'm going to start off with the introduction of our moderator, Beth Sarver. Beth. Beth Sarver is a restorative arts educator and thought leader in the KC metro area. As a high school art teacher, she teaches interdependence through mindfulness, play, and earth stewardship. She is passionate about leveraging science of interpersonal neurobiology for compassionate youth-led education. She's also an avid permaculture gardener, a systems designer, and currently the leader of the youth leader at the Temple Buddhist Center in Kansas City, where she is building an intergenerational whole family retreat to support strong family and community well-being. She hopes to cross-pollinate all of that with environmental action civics and her arts and culture and all the other pedagogy that she is working on. And so Beth is going to lead you in just a minute. My job is pretty simple. I'm going to introduce you to the rest of the panel, who is a fantastic group of educators from around the country. And then I'm going to bow out. So I'm going to say thank you to everybody for participating. And then I'm going to do some introductions. So in no particular order whatsoever, we have Alyssa Sardallega from the Everglades Foundation in Florida, Sean Jones, who is actually just down the street from me here, and he's at Oak Ridge Elementary School in Arlington, Virginia, Alex Goffany, who's with the Dayspring Christian Academy in Colorado, Chantel Landry, who's with the Mariners Museum in Newport News, Virginia, and Julia Fliss from Evergreen Middle School in Colorado. And so I'm going to turn it over to you, Beth.
Thank you. I think it's so serendipitous that you introduced me as Breath. I not only because I am constantly inviting the breath for my students, but I think it is maybe the essential practice of youth-led learning is to remember to take deep breaths. So, and to never, ever, ever give up. So welcome everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you all. I have this amazing list of questions. So let's jump in. So if you feel this question, be like, me. Can you share a memorable experience where student-led learning brought unexpected joy and or success? Ooh, Chantel, tell us all about it.
I can jump right in. So at the museum, we have a kayaking program where we have sixth graders from the local community come in. They do a kayaking program and they participate in other land activities. But for many of the students that we see, kayaking is a brand new experience. It's not very common for a majority of our students. And so they come to the museum super excited, and then they see the water and they get very, very nervous. So one way that we try to ease their anxieties is by telling them this is a challenge by choice. So they can tell us how comfortable they are. If they are really nervous, we put them in what we call our novice group. And for our novice group, it's all about making them comfortable. So they are absolutely terrified. They might say, hey, I don't know how to swim. What do I do? We try to ease their anxieties. But out of all of the field trips that we've had so far, every single student that has gone on the water has come off saying, that was amazing. I want to go back. Can I come back tomorrow kayaking? Which is so rewarding as an educator, because you see them, you see their terror, and then you talk them through everything that they're worried about. And then you can just see the joy and the light in their faces and how excited and comfortable and proud of themselves that they are.
All right, Alyssa.
Yeah, so a group of students that I work with, they are high schoolers and they are young Everglades voices in their community. And they had been in the program for about 5 months. And we actually attended a local environmental festival called Manatee Fest. And the students were new to the program and they had been gearing up and learning about the content. And when I was at Manatee Fest setting up, it was kind of like a small moment, but I had to leave and come back for something. And I walked in on the students like practicing being members of the public, approaching the table. And then like the other students were practicing how they were engaged, what their elevator pitch was going to be, and how they were going to draw the crowd in and talk about the Everglades. And it was really nice because I didn't ask them to do that. Like they just took their initiative and like wanted to make sure they had it down pat. And then, later on the day, just me having the chance to like step back and let the students lead the table and engage the public was really rewarding.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. The engagement, right? When students are like activated to be on purpose with this content and with these ideas. That's awesome. All right, Alex, you had something?
Yeah. So I've been doing student-run projects for several years now, and I actually just wanted to bring up something that happened today that I experienced, because I had a different possible answer for this, but today was just such a good one. 3 years ago, we started a recycling project at my school, entirely student run. Anything metal, we recycle. And so they set up aluminum cans around the school. They set up plenty of recycling bins. They partnered with another company, recycling company, to take all of the stuff. But I had a middle schooler a couple of years ago who thought he was being cheeky. And he said, and he made this little video where he took an aluminum can, was about to drop it in the aluminum recycling, shook his head, and then dropped it in the trash can. And then he acts like he's being all funny. And so then this year, I got him involved in a composting program where they had to establish a set up composting bins around the school, get with our cafeteria to set up composting, set up with the company to package our composting when it's done. And he set up a competition with our elementary. And when he set up the competition with the elementary kids, they were excited and ready to compost. And it was a super great event. And they got many, many pounds of compost prepped. And he gave the winning class a party. And that winning class had their party today during lunch. And the kids were trying to talk to this older student, this ninth grader, and they were saying, oh, when we get to high school, we want to be just as cool as you, and we want to do a project just as awesome as yours. And so then I go up to him and I say, so was it worth it doing all of this, putting in all this work? And he's like, well, Mr. G, it was worth it. I'm sorry I made fun of the project so many years ago, but now that I make a difference, this is all worth it. And I think that's ultimately what we're in this for.
Yeah, that growth, that full circle moment, right? All right, anyone else? Sparks of joy and success with student-led learning. I have taught a group how to do vermicomposting with worms, and I never would have thought that tiny worms would evoke as much fear and joy. So checking on the worms and composting in general was a great success. Anyone else want to dive in here? All right, let's talk about the challenge. Oh, before we go challenges, Julia, talk to us.
It's actually a transition to the next question, and it totally involves composting too. So at our school, we have a green team, and our green team has been working for years to help us recycle, create systems, sustainable processes. And we're sixth grade based green team. So it's brand new, right into middle school, coming out of elementary school. The mindset is like, come on, let's do this. Let's care about the planet. Let's be our best selves. Let's spread the awareness that we'd love to spread. And so our composting program, which we just started this year, is like the light of these kids' lives. Specifically, I need to get into some worms now that you said that. And Mr. G, I love that idea of bringing back a 9th grader in, so I'm taking notes. What I wanted to speak about, though, were some of the challenges we faced. There are so many. I think the ones I'd love to kind of highlight are 2 off the bat that I'm sure everyone relates to. It's time. Like there's just not enough time, right? There's that. Engagement is an interesting experience in our school. We have a mindset in our school, not just among kids. The most resistant mindsets are definitely in adult heads and brains, that this is too much for us. We can't handle this. Kids can't do this kind of work. It's going to be too messy, too many rules, too much extra, too much process. And that mindset actually we came face to face with at the beginning of the year, when even our principal and the group of administrators who run our school were like, this is really big. I don't know if we can do this. Why don't we start in phases? And so we showed them, absolutely, let's start in phases. Here's our SMART goal. We used the language of the school. We were all doing SMART goals at the time. So we used the language of the school to create that big picture goal, so that admin understood that we're listening to them, we're taking action on what we care about, and we're using the framework and the structure that they've promoted in the school to create change inside a classroom, only inside the entire school. When we talked about a sustainable mindset and sustainable practices versus the single-use kind of just we waste mentality that exists not just in the planet, but in our community, we connected to what's going on in our community. Like, what happens when a bear gets in a trash can? How does food waste affect landfills? What is the gas? Like, what is methane? How does that all connect? And from there, we went to, if you're open to us doing this, we're happy to start with just 6th grade. We'll then move to 7th grade. Here's some teachers who can help. The idea, though, is that this is all kid-driven. Our goal is system change. We want to see the system of this school with regard to food waste, and healthy foods and nutrition change, which then led us to the block of the federal government and free and reduced lunch. Free lunches in schools right now are just, we're in a learning, is how we like to say it. Kids are required, as I'm sure you all know, to take a certain number of food items to make sure their lunch is free, right? They have to take a protein, they have to take a vegetable, and they usually take a milk with that. So our school district, I don't know about yours, didn't communicate this information super clearly, and definitely teachers didn't do that very well either in some places. And so we had to teach the kids what they could and could not or didn't have to take from the free lunch to understand, hey, you actually don't have to take that much food. You can reduce what you take, and then that will create less waste. We also added on the fact that our recess is a whole bunch shorter than we all believe it should be. And so we also flipped our recess and made our recess before our lunch. So kids are hungrier because they've just been active and they're running around. So kids wasted less food. So it took a system and mindset shift there. Then we brought in the community members, like parents, to come in to help us get the food waste to the places it needs to go. And then we just knocked on our district door. So in terms of challenges, I think our kids would pinpoint mindset as number one. It's about helping people understand that if you take smaller incremental steps that are doable, you create a vision and a plan with a SMART goal, and you kind of delegate and make sure you're addressing each part of the process along the way, you can overcome any challenge.
Yeah. Well, and I think also using the language of your school's frameworks or your context. So like really showing how things can fit together, I think is really powerful, not only for scaffolding for young people, but also for the adults, the decision makers and the power brokers and that sort of thing. Thank you. That's a perfect transition into challenges, mindset and systems change in the whole community. All right, Sean, you got some challenges for us?
Yeah, so actually kind of building off of that, I think you really hit it when you were talking about like adults in the process being hesitant to take on anything more. It seems like a lot of teachers are kind of right at that tipping point, and the idea of like extra time and extra responsibilities feels like a lot. And so getting other teachers involved has been a challenge in the past. I do have a pretty strong team at my school, and I've been getting better about like trying to branch out and get them to take some ownership but not feel overwhelmed with it. My other main challenge, like one great aspect of my school is it is as diverse as it gets as far as like a lot of differences SES wise. We have right now over 40 languages spoken in the school because we get a lot of students from different countries. Sometimes it's students that have migrated here. Sometimes it's refugees. Sometimes it's embassy kids. So we have a very transient population. So sometimes we only have students for a year or two. And so them kind of coming in and out at different times throughout the year makes it a little bit difficult to maintain consistency. Because this program, or the program that I entered, the Caring for Our Watersheds, starts with 5th grade and goes to 10th grade, and my school ends at 5th grade. If I wanted to try to build something that students could continue, it would have to be at a different school. This year, though, I have been trying to get the 3rd graders and 4th graders interested in different clubs and organizations throughout the school and getting into the mind frame of like if they would want to do these student-led projects when they did get to 5th grade.
Wow. Yeah. So my school district is also a high population of multi-language learners, folks from all over the world. And this idea of continuity that you were kind of speaking on about like from 5th grade, and then it's like the middle school would have to be bought in, right? Like, and then the high school really should be bought in too, to create that seamless transition. Anyone else have a challenge with the continuity piece, like creating the life of the work that extends beyond the frame of the program as it is set up? That seems to be like a really important piece. Alex, I see you. Go for it.
So setting up projects, because setting up projects is just one piece of it. Sometimes students are like, I love caring for the watershed because I can see the money and I can see the difference and I can see all of that. And then a project gets set up, and the biggest thing is everyone is like, how does this continue? How is this just one and done, or is this a continuing thing? For instance, like a recycling or a compost, those are things that need to keep going. And we found even a rain garden requires continual maintenance to do the upkeep. So how do we do the upkeep when the students who established it may not be eligible or able to continue it? And this is a discussion I had with my admin. And what we found is one of the best ways is if we can provide curriculum to meet those requirements. Can we provide curriculum in our science or in our entrepreneurial or in some programs? The adults are always the hardest fight, but when it comes to if we can show them how this meets different standards, I know this kind of cheats by going into the next question a little bit, so I'll stay away from that as much as possible and save that. But what we have found is that to keep up on that, you need to provide student buy-in. And sometimes it's, hey, you guys are coming to school, and oftentimes the most common complaint about school, which this can kind of help address, is why am I learning this? What is so important about me knowing how to do this math? Why is pre-algebra so important? And then if we show them, hey, let's work on composting. Let's work on a rain garden. Let's work on a riparian environment. Let's look at our recycling. How much money are we generating? How much are we putting in? What's the cost of our labor to do this? And then they start seeing, oh, this is a real job that I could have in the future, and this is real math I'm using. And once that reality kind of sinks in, that, oh, this is something like in the future I could be paid to do this. And that's where me as the entrepreneurial director, I have been put in charge of all of these projects, these student-led projects, because it's this chance for students to then go out and be like, here's a purpose that I have. Here's something that I'm learning that's real. And then they suddenly are like, oh my goodness, we really do use geometry in the real world. It kind of shocks them for a moment when building a riparian environment requires geometry, or that caring for a composting program requires geometry and algebra, and also like our rain garden requires algebra in order to figure out angles of sunlight, which plants work best, angle of flow, erosion and weathering to get science. So there's so much curriculum tied in, and it's a chance for students to go and really learn that material. And once they've gotten going in it, the buy-in almost works itself, because they see the difference and they see the future of it. And once they see the future, the mindset's pretty easy.
Yeah, so you like create multiple on-ramps of relevance so that they like can find the one on-ramp that works for them. If it's not the geometry, it might be something else.
Absolutely.
So Alyssa, earlier when we were meeting, you talked about kind of the importance of the standards-based curriculum that you all champion. Do you want to bring us in on our next question, which states, what specific strategies or tools, oh no, wait, we've already done that one. How do you assess student-led projects, and what criteria do you use to ensure educational standards or program goals are met?
So yeah, we have through the Everglades Foundation, we have standards aligned curriculum that teaches about the Everglades. So teaching about the Everglades is not mandatory in Florida schools, but the Everglades is a huge part of Florida, going from Orlando all the way down to the Keys, and it's in a lot of students' backyard, and they don't even know it. So we created this curriculum so that instead of, for example, students learning about adaptations and talking about polar bears and lions, they learn about the American alligator and the Florida panther, just as a super simple example. But part of the way that we leverage this model is we work with teachers who carry it out in their classroom, the student-led projects. And so having this curriculum created helps to give teachers the opportunity so that they can get the students the content buy-in and the engagement about the different projects that they will choose. Because when we were talking about the challenges, I was going to mention, engaging with content. In order to get students to care about things, they have to learn about them, they have to understand them, and they have to feel comfortable with them. And so having the curriculum or lessons designed to kind of supplement that helps to get the projects going.
Does anybody else have any thoughts about the standards? I feel like that's one of the hardest things for teachers, is like balancing like this requirement to provide rigorous standards-based education, but then to also, how do you make it joyful and successful? So let's start with Julia, and then we'll go back down to Sean.
Awesome. This is going to sound crazy. I'm sure, though, those of you who are here are like me, hopefully. I love the standards. I love that Colorado puts forth the standards that they do. I love my social studies, 6th grade, Western Hemisphere, world studies standards. So I really do a lot of work to make those personal connections with them. And I think the kids feel that. So number one, I personally connect with the standards, which creates joy in the space. I also pull from the standards. Often I have in my room right now. I'm staring at it. It's my wall with the global goals on it. And I pull a certain statement from the standards that says, this year is meant to empower learners in taking initiative to become informed and active global citizens. And I just like, everything we do is right there. So that's in our space and of our space. When we talk about the standards, though, I also talk about like, this is a blanket set of learning targets. Not everyone learns the same way. Not everyone is going to absorb targets in the same way. We all need different ways of learning. So what do you believe? And we do a wall of, this is how I believe learning should be. And we incorporate what does the standard look like that? Like, what is that language? What is academic language? How does that connect to kid language? Like, so we bring the standards into our space so that we can create a relationship with them. So the kids understand what they are. Within Colorado, we have proficiency scales as well. I'm not sure how every other state is. We have kid-friendly proficiency scales, and we tear them apart. We're like, this is supposed to be kid-friendly. Does this make sense to you? I'm like, what is this in our words? And so we break down what the standards are in a way that helps them own them, and then use that common language in our space to create the critical conversations we're having about what we need to do in the world. Like, how can we be informed and active global citizens if we don't even understand what this thing is trying to say to us? Like, how do I understand what I'm supposed to learn in this space if someone has written something that's so above my understanding that I can't connect to it? Because it's all about the connection. So specifically in my World Studies Western Hemisphere class, we look at the standards, we use the proficiency scales, we bring them into our language, and we frame them within our network of learning, and then we localize them, right? Like place-based learning, play with them. What are we going to do with these things? Tear them apart. Like, I pull them out and we look at them in classes, and then we connect to our school's mission statement. We connect to the global goals. We connect to maps and geography. What are the issues around the world that other kids are experiencing? What do you think their standards are like in India? What is a proficiency scale in Venezuela like compared to our school? Like, just a comparative analysis of what's happening in schools right now around the world, and how and what are standards meant to do? How can we make them work for us, knowing that the world is our classroom, and that's how we get to experience it.
Yes, all that energy. You are embodying the joy that you teach with. I have a sense of that. Thank you for sharing. All right, Sean, talk to us.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with you. I feel like tying it to the standards is the easy part. A lot of them lend themselves so naturally because science is the study of everything around you. Like, we can make that connection. One thing that years ago, my school started doing some professional development about project-based learning, and they introduced the 4 C's. And then Virginia began to adopt them and created the 5 C's, which is now part of our main, or it's stated, and I don't know how much people buy into it, but it's like what I built my entire class based off of. And so those 5 C's are critical thinking skills, because like, we don't want the kids just doing rote memorization. We really want them to be thinkers. We need them to be collaborators, because without the ability to collaborate, how are they going to work in the real world? Their communication skills need to be built upon. They need to be creative. And the 5th C in Virginia is citizenship. And I feel like these projects really lend themselves to that global citizenship, or even to a community citizenship. So stressing those 5 C's and thinking about it before any student-led project. How are we going to work through those? How are we going to develop these skills so that these students are ready for the next level, and then eventually ready for the world, is how I try to frame my entire class.
Absolutely. The citizenship part, I think, is so powerfully important. And one of the parts of why environmental action civics was so compelling to me in the first place was this idea of civics being taught through environmental stewardship and through policy change, like really empowered action. Does anyone else have any thoughts about how to really frame these educational experiences not just based on the standards, but also like achieving this wild goal of joyful learning, learning where students really are in charge. All right, Alyssa, talk to us.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in and say, like, talking about the framework, the tools that Earth Force has, like from the student slides and the student tracking sheet, and even what Sean was just saying about citizenship being a part of the 5 C's, like there's an environmental citizen project. So there's all these resources that Earth Force offers that are very turnkey, and they're ready to just take and go and do in the classroom with your students. And those are great things to help get your feet under you when you're first starting your project, and it really kind of maps it out and works it through for you. And of course, you do, what fits the model of your classroom the best. But yeah, I just wanted to say that the resources that they have are great and very, very helpful.
Agreed. And that was question 3, was the specific strategies and tools. So anyone else want to shout out the amazing tools or assets that are provided by Earth Force? I found that when I was doing a project with kids from 5, we were in intergenerational classrooms. We had 5-year-olds to 14-year-olds. Without those tools, I don't know that I would have been able to support the different developmental levels of the learners in my school. So anyone else want to shout out like which tools and strategies were most effective for your work? All right.
So at the museum, we offer a lot of teacher professional developments. In Earth Force, we keep pushing to the teachers, and all of the resources that they have available for teachers, we've heard, are just fantastic. They haven't said specifically which ones, but Earth Force is always number 1 on our list, where we try to encourage them to do other projects outside of the experiences they have at the museum with their students. We try to encourage them to do things that they can do in their classroom or at their school that can improve the environment. And we say, hey, if you are just in desperate need of any type of resource, any type of idea, help, check out Earth Force, because all of the materials that they have on there are really valuable and very useful.
All right, Julia.
I'd love to add to that. In addition to resources, any PD you do with Earth Force is so activating. It's just like community collective effervescence. It's really just beautiful work. Because of the PD I did specifically this past summer in August, I got connected with the RISE Challenge and Taylor, who is the Colorado coordinator. The RISE Challenge is basically how are you demonstrating resilience in your community and feeding resilience back to your community. And because of that RISE Challenge, our entire green team just rallied around like, oh my gosh, there's potential for us to learn from all these other schools who've been a part of the RISE Challenge. And actually, because of their work, they do an action story, and you are up for earning, I say, a grant through the RISE Challenge. And so we just had our panelist discussion this morning. We submitted our action story by last Friday, or 2 Fridays ago, actually, that showed all of the videos, like in a video, all of the work we've done over the course of the year, what our future vision is. So then we, this morning, had the panelist show. We'll find out tomorrow. But the act of tracing, tracking, and owning our action journey, like our civic action as global citizens, creating tech and a video and an artifact, and then connecting with the community. The rubric for the RISE Challenge is amazing. It makes sure that you're making connections and you're doing all of these things, helps kids see not only are we creating an opportunity for our mindset or our community's mindset to change, but we're initiating sustainable action in our community, and we're actually sustaining ourselves with the funding we need to keep our idea going the year after. So I shout out to the RISE Challenge, Earth Force, PD, in addition to all of the resources and tools too.
Excellent. Yeah, I really feel like the resources and really the whole process supports executive functioning. and really modeling how to organize oneself in a community context to tackle really challenging, ideas, even if it seems like a simple idea like an organic garden. But really, how are we going to make that happen? And, just all of the detailed budgets and plans that we were able to put together with a group of children. It was remarkable. And we didn't have to reinvent the wheel. We just had to use the tools that were made available. Anyone else want to shout out tools before we move on to talk about the nerves of youth-led learning? So in my context, we had, again, K through middle school, all in one-room schoolhouse. So there was definitely some anxiety and nerves that got, bubbling up in a mixed age group. I'm curious about how you all might have any anxiety or nerves that come up from the student or from the adults in the context of your projects or programs. Here's question 5 and how it might have been resolved. Alyssa, what you got?
Yeah, so I'll give a little bit of background about one of the ways that we applied the model. So we did it with 13 high school students across the county and a little across Palm Beach County. We don't have a brick and mortar physical location. So majority of our meetings are virtual and majority of our communications are virtual. The high school students were tasked with driving a community action project through their club at their school, whether it's the garden club, the environmental club, the junior honor society, that type of thing. So a little bit of anxiety that I felt on my end was the lack of FaceTime that I had with the students. Everyone communicates differently. Some students would take initiative and reach out to me if they needed something. Other times I wouldn't hear from a student. I would be thinking that everything's going great with their action project. And then I would follow up with them. And then they actually, were maybe a little bit more behind and they needed some more guidance, but they didn't vocalize that. So that's something that definitely, I think, a little bit of anxiety on both ends between the students and myself as well. And again, I think the barrier for us was only having the virtual communications. We did have some in-person meetings, which were very, very valuable as well. But I think just learning how to kind of mitigate that. And for me, again, working with high school students, I think having monthly deliverables and asks as we're checking in with the students, for me, working directly with them is a good strategy to kind of help deal with that, just so that we can keep ourselves accountable and check in with what they need from me and what I need from them.
I love that. Monthly deliverables. I think we all need deliverables.
Yes.
Your ask.
Yeah. And if, you're working with younger students, maybe those are your internal deliverables that you kind of have for yourself to keep you on track with your own group of students. And you can phrase it in a much more fun way. That's not the word deliverable. But that's something that I kind of mentally noted going forward was like streamlining like what our asks are to keep us on track.
Yeah, I think definitely a communication plan was helpful for our teams. We had 3 different projects that we were working amongst ourselves. So knowing when and how things were going to happen was really important.
Yeah.
Anyone else have thoughts about how anxiety or stress might bubble up during this type of work and how you would support each other or the children or yourself? Alex, talk to us.
Yeah, so working with my students this year, they're involved with the RISE project in Colorado. And originally, so I had 4 groups submit to Caring for Our Watershed, and 2 of them were accepted. And one of them that I thought would be accepted didn't get accepted, and they were super stressed about it. They're like, oh, we didn't get it. And I'm like, it's okay. We got next year. But then the lady in charge of caring for our watershed in our area, she reached out and said, hey, why not go through Earth Force to do this with the Rise Challenge? And I'm like, I'll bring it up to the students. And I'm like, hey, why don't we try this project with them? And so then they're like, yes, we got approval to build a riparian environment to help impact the flooding along the Poudre River, which was a fantastic project idea. They had all of their plants picked out, Colorado native stuff. They did a lot of work in it. I made them rewrite their plan 5 times to get it perfect so they understood the concepts. And they kept going, and then the negative happened. First Caring for Our Watershed turned them down, but then after they got involved in the Rise, then the company that owned the property where we were going to build, they said, actually, we're going to move in a different direction. We are going to revamp that whole park and turn it into apartments. And so you can plant stuff, but we're tearing it up next year. And then the kids are like, oh no, there's no point now. And now we have all this stuff. We have all these plants. We have all this soil. And one student came into my room when we got that email in the morning. In the afternoon around lunch, she came in and she was crying and she's like, is all of this for nothing? And I'm like, well, what do I always teach about problems? And she's like, that they're opportunities. And I'm like, yes, what's the opportunity here? And then she's like, I don't know. When am I going to use this? I'm like, this is real world stuff. These are excellent skills for you to have. And sometimes we got to take these hard points and we just got to try a new opportunity. So then she got with her group during my class and I just set them around to have a discussion. I'm like, all right, let's talk about it. What do we do with all these plants? What do we do to complete the Rise project? And what do we do to fulfill what we promised to Earth Force? And then they came up with an idea about our hill that's eroding and moving towards our building, and the fact that we keep getting flooding from that hill. And they're like, well, what if we just build it on that hill? I'm like, excellent, go talk to our director. And so then they go talk to the director. Well, he wants a bunch of stuff. So then they fill out all those plans, and then they are getting stressed because now they have to do a whole new set of plans. They have to do it all again. And the entire time I'm just being their cheerleader. I'm like, you can do this. You got this. I believe in you guys and I know you can do it. And once we plant, you're going to feel amazing. And so it went from the ideation stage into that launch and getting moving into actually building the environment. And it just kept being like, you can't build in this spot, build it over here. And then we got it moved over there. And it's like, okay, now we got to start doing this. Who is going to dig it? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do this? And then I'm just like, send out to students and I'll email teachers about who is interested in taking time off class to go build an environment. And they sent it out. We got principal approval and they have shovels in ground on Thursday next week. And they are finally like, we've done it. And they are so proud of themselves because they went over failure after failure after failure, but turning that into an opportunity each time, they feel way more successful than our Caring for Our Watershed groups who immediately just got the easy track all the way through. And they're like, we had to work so much harder than you guys. And I'm like, hey, it's not a competition. You did work harder, but you guys are so much more proud of what you've done because you overcame all those issues.
Well, and it just makes a case for this work is social emotional learning, right? Like in the thick of it, like real social emotional learning alongside of all of this other rigorous science and math and design thinking and problem solving and in all of these ways. I love that. Julia, I see your hand pop in there. What do you got?
Actually, I was just going to give Mr. G a shout out. Like, talk about doom and gloom shifting. That's phenomenal. Like when most people think about climate and all the stuff, you go to this place where it's just too much and you just like put all of that in their reach and taught them, like everyone's saying in our chat here, like those are the life skills we all need right now. That's the resilience part of it. So just a shout out.
Awesome. Anyone else? All right. I really like this next question because I really feel like my time with Earth Force has changed my teaching philosophy. So here we go. What have been some key takeaways from your experiences with student-led learning that have influenced your teaching philosophy? All right, Chantel.
It kind of echoes what Alex was saying, but I feel like when we have more student-led projects, they just get more out of it. They are so much more invested, and you can really see the interests and the desire really take shape with them. And like I said, Alex, you really framed it well with that group you were mentioning. They felt like, hey, our project was so much better because we put in so much more work, and look at how it turned out. And it's awesome because they really feel like they have ownership over something. And for them to feel the ownership, then they're part of that community and they feel like what they're doing is impactful and meaningful. And that's exactly what we want them to feel. We want them to feel a part of the community. So I love to try and implement any type of student-led learning whenever I can, so that they can feel like they have ownership and they are a part of the community, because they are.
All right, Alyssa.
It's hard to put my hand up. It keeps blurring in with the background. I just wanted to say that for me, it's really validated that students' individual successes are really dependent on, their life experiences and their background and their interests as well. Because in my group, I have a variety of personalities. Some students are very shy and very introverted, and for them, their pillar of success is doing an outreach and attending and engaging and coming out of their comfort zone and interacting with the public. And, other students who maybe are more extroverted, their pillar of success is presenting to the school board, calling for some type of change in the school district. So it's different for each student, but each pillar that they hit is equally valid and amazing and exciting, and they still grew in their own way as well.
I love that. Yeah, there's something for everybody to do. There's a gift for everyone to contribute to the work. Many hands make light work. I think for me, after completing, we did 3 projects with Earth Force all at the same time, and we delegated amongst this intergenerational group of kids, and with a variety of abilities and preferences and needs. And I walk away from this work believing in intergenerational collaboration and collaborating across systems. So we were a little mini private, democratic school that popped up during COVID, but we needed to collaborate with the temple where we were housed, and we really needed to think outside of our own little world that we had created, and to think about policy change and all of these things really required stepping outside of the box. And I walk away knowing that earth stewardship and connecting to the earth is the essential learning of our time, and that it needs to be intergenerational and across, organizational. We need each other. No one group can do it. And you all have shared that, like your partners, and Earth Force is like this epic partner. So the earth is at the core, but all of these academic skills and social emotional skills and, life skills are embedded all throughout. So that's where my philosophy has gone. How about you, Julia?
Hopefully you're not tired of hearing my voice, because I'm always going to pipe up and in. I've been doing student-led learning for a while, like most of you. And the single thing that has just changed the world in the space that I'm in has to do with teachers as facilitators, and that everyone in the room is a teacher. Like, just being really transparent about the fact that this is not anybody being a sage on the stage. This is transformative pedagogy and learning for all of us. It's about creating personalized action campaigns. Like, what is the passion-based thing you care about so much that you are willing to create a website, design a PSA, make an infographic, go talk to people about, get into the community, and actually asking kids what their passion is huge. Like, asking them to dig into themselves and connect with their learning in a way that it creates personal momentum. And intrinsic learning is like that inside out learning that our system needs right now to activate and light up the place, because we need to make some changes in education. It's very clear. The kids know it. Just the adults that aren't listening so well right now. So as we create those partnerships that fuel that fire for change in education, the kids are leading the way, and turning the power over to them is huge. Like, that's what it's about. I should actually teach myself right out of my job if I do my job correctly.
Powerful. How about you, Sean? How has this all this work changed your philosophy?
I mean, it's really made me, I guess this was my first year doing the Caring for Our Watersheds project, and I feel like I owe it to my students going forward to give them this opportunity. So I kind of presented it as like an optional thing, because I'd gone to a professional development, I heard about it, and I was like, I'm going to tell you what I know about it. I want to see if you're interested. And if you're interested, we'll go forth. If not, like, no one is pushing the entirety of fixing the world and watersheds on you. So whatever you want to do, we can do. And I couldn't believe at how many students were just like, no, we need to do this. And they went Shark Tank style and did a whole presentation. A lot of kids dressed up. They made PowerPoints or slides. We had like a grade-wide pitch, and they settled on like 2 projects that kids were really, really passionate about. And again, being a first timer, I was like, I was thinking we do one, and actually Sarah convinced me just to go for it with both. And so we went for it, and the kids have been loving the steps along the way. I've just seen this new ownership from them, and I just feel that responsibility to let the next group of 5th graders have a voice and have this opportunity, because I've been surprised throughout the entire process.
I love that. All right. I think Alex, you're the last one. I think we've all got to share, and then we can maybe have a minute for the last question. Maybe.
So yeah, some of the takeaways when it comes to this is, one thing that the world needs kids to know when they leave school is they need the kids to know. So it's what I call grit. Now they need to know how to work, how to push through hard situations. If the world is against them, they need to be able to stand up and say, hey, this is me, this is my voice, this is what I want to do. And project-based learning like this is them going out into the world, going to adults and saying, hey, we are doing this activity. And I teach 7th through 12th grade, and I don't care if they're a 7th grader or a 12th grader, I'm sending them to businesses to talk to business owners. And a lot of them are terrified of it, but they are learning skills that are vital to them once they leave my school. Once they leave my school, I want them to succeed. I want them to do well, whether they go to college or whether they don't go to college. One thing that I've actually learned by switching from a lecture-based system like I did, because I was teaching college anatomy and college biology, and it was just lecture all day. And I was like, these kids aren't learning anything. I need something new. and then swapping to this project-based learning. Now I rarely ever lecture the students, but I think they walk away with so much more things. They know how to form that grit, how to work hard, how to make a difference. And I also learned the students who got C's before are now some of my best students. They're the ones who are like, oh, give me a project to do, give me something to do. I can do it, I can make a difference. And those students who are making C's are suddenly showing what they can really do. And it's really making a positive impact where I can hit the lowest students and the best students. And so my teaching philosophy's forever changed to just project learning every opportunity I get.
All right. So what's your advice for those educators who are either watching this or someday will watch this little stream? I think for me, I would say just do it. Just jump in and do it. The support is there, the community is there, and it is absolutely essential learning. That's what I would say. Just do it. Let's all try to answer this in the next minute or two. Alyssa, why don't you go next?
Yeah, so piggybacking off of what you said, just do it. Jump in, rip it off like a Band-Aid. You know, you have the tools, and it's going to be kind of scary because especially if student-led learning is, you know, something new, learning to let go of the reins and be patient and accept the unknown are all, you know, really great things to just keep in mind. And the process may seem a little bit disconnected at first, but it will all come together. You just have to trust the process.
Agreed. All right, who's next? The wisdom. Let's share our wisdom. All right, Julia.
Celebrate the mess. Like, you get to be a part of the creation too. Be transparent with your kids and say, I'm doing this for the first time. Here's the scaffolding. Here's the resources I'm using. Here's how we're going to connect. Who has ideas? We're all in this together. We're a team. So it's going to be messy, and we might have to back up and redirect, but just embrace the mess of it, because it's the life in it. It's the spark. It's the fire. It's the magic.
Yeah, the mess is the learning too. All right, Chantel.
Show your excitement. I mean, the students are going to be excited along with you. The more exuberant that you are, the more excited they're going to be, and the more involved they're going to want to be too.
Yes, our energy is infectious. All right, Sean, what's your best advice?
I feel like a lot of these educators obviously would be into growth mindset and the whole idea of embracing failure. But then when it actually comes to doing it, like, people are afraid to fail. And that, just like you've been saying, it's just like everyone's been saying, like, just try it. Like, if you mess up, you mess up, but it's part of the process. The kids have been great throughout, like, with ups and downs, and there's nothing to lose.
Absolutely true. All right, Alex.
So just to piggyback off of what Sean was saying, so yeah, we are going to mess up, and the kids are going to mess up. But one thing that I make clear with kids, I redefine failure. The only thing that fails is if you don't try or if you give up. And so if you redefine failure, you use that grit, you then just find a problem. Find a problem you can fix. And if you don't know how to fix it, let's discuss how to fix it. Problems are just opportunities.
Absolutely. Did everybody get to share their advice? I think so. Alyssa, did you? You did, right? Well, this has been so great. I think we could probably keep talking for a while. But I think ending on this idea of failure is so important. In our world, failure is just, it's a part of the story of being human. And on the door of my classroom, it says, capture failure, turn it into skill. And that's from a great book that I can't remember the name of, Daniel O'Coyle. But we do need to model for our young people that failure isn't scary. It's just a part of the deal. If you're an art teacher, you know that. If you're a science teacher, you know that. If you're in entrepreneurship, you know that. But for some reason in education, we've forgotten the importance of learning through failure. So I think that's another way that Earth Force and Environmental Action Civics really invites us to learn in a deep and profound way. So thank you all for being here and for sharing your heart and your mind with the world.
Thank you so much, Beth, and our wonderful panelists. And thank you so much for everyone watching and watching at a later date. You should have seen the behind the scenes chat from Earth Force. We're all going, oh my gosh, did you hear what they just said? Yes, yes, yes. Lots of emojis flying around. We're so thrilled that you could share your diverse perspectives today. And thank you so much for all the wonderful work you're doing with young people. They are lucky to have you. As we're closing up, please check the chat to answer a 3-question exit ticket to give us some feedback on the event, and you can be entered into a drawing to win a $25 gift card. And if you're a practitioner of this work, you can consider joining our brand new online community of practice. This is a wonderful member-driven dynamic space for the people doing environmental action civics. The link is in the chat, or you can visit our website at earthforce.org to find the link. And one last thing, please join us for the rest of Environmental Action Civics week. It starts today. You can see all the other events. We have some wonderful events lined up at earthforce.org/EAC week. And we'll be live on Instagram every day this week at 11 a.m. chatting with other friends in this field. So again, thank you so much, Beth. Wonderful job. Thank you all for joining us, and we hope you have a great evening. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.